Every weekend, I escape the city's hustle and bustle to find solace at my grandpa's farm. This isn't your ordinary weekend getaway. No, this is a ritual, born out of love for my grandpa and a shared passion for the simplicity of farm life. See my grandpa? He's this robust, weather-worn man who spent his entire life tilling this terrain. He's my beacon of wisdom, always ready with a story or a lesson about life, love, and everything in between. The farm itself? It's my sanctuary. A place where the clamor of the city fades into the background, replaced by the soothing hum of nature. The scent of freshly turned soil, the rustling whispers of the wind through the trees, the rhythmic cawing of crows in the distance. It's a symphony of peace and tranquility. As the day was winding down, I decided to take a stroll through the vast cornfield. The cornfield, massive and serene, stretched out until it kissed the horizon. I'd always loved this place. Its tranquility was a balm, a sanctuary from the world's noise. The tall stalks, swaying gently in the breeze, seemed to dance with a rhythm known only to them. With the setting sun casting long, playful shadows, I ventured deeper into this vast green, circumflex green ocean. But as the daylight waned, the cornfield began to change. The peace I had initially embraced was slowly replaced by an eerie quiet. The whispers of the wind turned into hushed secrets. The rustling leaves sounded like hushed conversations. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that the cornfield, once my haven of peace, had turned into a labyrinth of confusion. The once welcoming stalks now towered over me, their tips lost in the twilight. The rows, once straight and orderly, now twisted and turned in a mockery of a maze. I was lost. The shadows grew longer, the darkness more profound. A chill wind blew through the field, making the stalks sway more violently. The rustling seemed louder, more insistent. My pulse quickened as a cold realization washed over me. I was not alone in this cornfield. Panic started to claw at the edges of my mind, gnawing away at my sense of reason. Every sound, every movement in the cornfield was magnified, echoing in the vast emptiness. I felt eyes on me, unseen, lurking in the shadows. The cornfield, my sanctuary, had turned into a stage for my fears, and I was the unwilling star. As I stumbled blindly through the maze, trying to find my way out, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. I could almost hear the whispers growing louder, circumflex, more menacing. The rustling of the cornstalk seemed to follow me, closing in, tightening its grip. In the growing darkness, the rustling cornstalk seemed to whisper threats, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. With every step, my heart pounded louder, mirroring the terror coursing through my veins. The cornfield had turned into an ominous labyrinth, its leafy walls seeming to close in on me. In the dimming twilight, the rustling whispers of the cornstalks became an eerie symphony, each sway a chilling reminder of my isolation. The serenity of the day had morphed into a sinister stillness. My footfalls sounded deafening in the silence, echoing off the unseen boundaries of the cornfield. The path ahead was an unending cycle of the same towering stalks, their tops brushing against the now starless sky. The air around me seemed to thicken with each passing minute, my breaths turning ragged and shallow. The once comforting scent of the earth and corn had taken on a musty, decaying undertone, the smell of forgotten fears and foreboding. My senses were heightened, every rustle setting off a ripple of panic through my veins. The cornfield was no longer a familiar sanctuary, but an alien territory, fraught with unseen dangers. Yet, it wasn't just the disorienting maze of corn that gnawed at my courage. It was the unsettling feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes tracking my every move. A feeling that something was lurking in the shadows, something that thrived in the darkness. The thought was a cold shiver running down my spine, turning my blood to ice. My pace quickened, the frantic rhythm of my heart the only sound to break the silence. Each shadow seemed to take on menacing shapes, my imagination painting grotesque figures in the darkness. My breath hitched in my throat, a whimper of fear escaping my lips. The cornfield was alive, its dark heart beating in sync with mine, feeding on my terror. And then, just as the dread threatened to swallow me whole, a sound pierced the silence. A voice, faint but familiar, echoing across the field, reaching out to me through the darkness. Just as despair threatened to consume me, a familiar voice cut through the eerie silence. My grandpa's voice, both comforting and commanding, guided me out of the labyrinth. Each syllable, a beacon in the eerie silence of the cornfield, drew me closer to safety. The stalks, once towering and intimidating, seemed to shrink as the familiar cadence of his voice filled the air. As I emerged from the field, the world seemed to breathe again. The moonlight bathed the farm in a soft glow, a stark contrast to the ominous shadows of the cornfield. My heart pounded in my chest, a wild drum echoing the relief coursing through my veins. There he was, my grandpa, his strong arms open and ready to pull me into a secure embrace. The smell of earth and aged wood clung to him, a scent that spelled home. I melted into his hold, my fear dissipating like fog under the morning sun. But as I looked back at the cornfield, a shiver ran down my spine. The fear was gone, but the unease remained. Back at the house, under the warm glow of the kitchen light, I asked Grandpa how he found me. His eyes, usually so full of laughter and life, seemed distant and clouded over as he looked at me. For a moment, there was silence. Then he leaned back in his chair and his gaze fell onto the distant cornfield, illuminated only by the pale moonlight. "I always know when you're in trouble, kiddo," he said, his voice a soft whisper against the quiet hum of the night. But there was something in his tone, a hint of something unspoken, something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, despite the safety of the familiar surroundings. His smile was comforting, yet it did not reach his eyes. It was a smile that held secrets as vast and unsettling as the cornfield itself. Grandpa's smile didn't reach his eyes as he said, "I always know when you're in trouble, kiddo," an answer that offered no answers, and a mystery that lingered long after the scare had passed. Ever got lost in a cornfield on a hot summer day? That's how my buddy Dave and I decided to spend a day of our summer vacation. We were drawn to the sprawling cornfield that lay on the outskirts of our town, a sea of golden stalks under the glaring sun. My name's Jake, by the way. Dave and I, we've been inseparable since kindergarten. We've got this shared sense of adventure, always on the lookout for something new and exciting. And that day, the cornfield was our uncharted territory, our new frontier. The cornfield was a sight to behold. It stretched out before us, a labyrinth of towering cornstalks, swaying gently in the warm breeze. It was almost hypnotic, the way the golden stalks danced under the brilliant blue sky. The sun was a fiery orb, casting long, wavering shadows that added to the field's allure. It was a picture of tranquility, a moment frozen in time, and we were right there, standing on the edge of this beautiful maze. With a shared grin, we stepped into the cornfield. The rustling of the leaves was our soundtrack, the warm earth beneath our feet our guide. We moved deeper, the cornstalks parting to reveal new paths. We laughed, we joked, we were lost in our little adventure. It was a perfect summer day, the kind you remember years later, when the weight of the world has dimmed the brightness of youth. But as we ventured further into the cornfield, something started to shift. The paths began to look all too familiar, like we were walking in circles. The warm breeze turned chilly. The rustling leaves sounded more like whispers. The laughter faded, replaced by an uneasy silence. The cornfield, once a symbol of summer and freedom, was now a maze with no exit in sight. The deeper we went, the more the cornfield felt like a labyrinth. Every path looked the same. Every turn led us back to the same place. It was as if the field was playing tricks on us. The cornstalks towered over us, their golden heads rustling in the wind and the sun casting long, eerie shadows that danced around us. We tried to maintain a sense of direction, but it seemed impossible. The labyrinth of corn was disorienting, and the fear of the unknown was creeping in. The realization that we were lost hit us like a ton of bricks. We tried to laugh it off, but our laughter echoed hollowly in the silent field. The sense of adventure we started with had turned into a gnawing anxiety. Each rustle of the wind through the cornstalks sent chills down our spines. The silence was deafening, the solitude was suffocating, and the cornfield was turning into a prison. We froze, staring at the figure that seemed to bend in all the wrong ways, its face hidden in shadows. My heart was pounding like a drum, the rhythm echoing in my ears. It was a moment that stretched out, time seeming to stand still as we faced the unknown. Dave's voice broke the silence, a hushed whisper filled with fear. "Run!" And we did. We ran through the maze of towering cornstalks, our laughter and jokes replaced with raw, primal fear. It was a chase, a race for survival against an entity we didn't understand. No matter which way we turned, it was there. The rustling of cornstalks echoed in our ears, a constant reminder that we were not alone. The figure was always right behind us, its presence like a dark shadow that refused to let go. The cornfield, once a symbol of summer adventure, had become an endless labyrinth, a trap. Each path looked the same, each turn leading us deeper into the maze. The golden field that basked in the sunlight now seemed like a twisted illusion, playing tricks on our minds and leading us in circles. Every rustle, every whisper of the wind became a threat, Our hearts raced, adrenaline pumping through our veins as we pushed ourselves to keep going. Fear had become our fuel, desperation our guide. The suspense was unbearable, the fear reaching its peak as we ran for our lives. We could feel it, the cold emptiness of its gaze, the unsettling way it moved. It was a chase that seemed to go on forever, a nightmare we couldn't wake up from. Just when I thought we were done for, we stumbled upon a clearing. The sudden absence of towering corn stalks around us was startling. We burst out into the open, gasping for breath and collapsing onto the ground. The figure, the entity that had pursued us, was nowhere to be seen. It had vanished, disappeared into thin air as if it was never there. But we knew what we had seen, what we had experienced. The cornfield was no longer just a field. It was a memory, a reminder of the chase, of the fear, and of the figure that lurked within. We burst out into the open, gasping for breath. When we looked back, the figure was gone. The adrenaline that had fueled our frantic escape was slowly replaced with a creeping sense of dread. We were free from the labyrinthine field, yet the terror that had chased us through the maze of cornstalks still clung to us, a chilling reminder of the ordeal we had just survived. Our hearts pounded in our chests, the echo of our fear. We were safe, yes, but the terror had etched itself onto our very souls. A silent testament to the horrors that lay hidden in the everyday, in the sunlit fields and quiet corners of the world. The figure, that unsettling presence, remained a mystery. Its origin, its purpose, its very existence, all shrouded in the unknown. We had escaped its grasp, but the enigma it represented was far from resolved. We never did figure out what that thing was, or why it was in the cornfield. The only thing we know is we escaped from the maze of terror, but the mystery remains.
The day's work has ended and I find myself on the familiar road home, the sun dipping low in the sky. The world is bathed in the gentle golden hues of dusk, the final farewell of daylight. A shortcut through the countryside offers a welcome change of scenery with a sprawling cornfield accompanying me on my journey. The cornstalks stand tall, casting long, wavering shadows that dance in the fading light, a spectral ballet that is both mesmerizing and eerie. As I continue my drive, something catches my eye. A silhouette emerges from the cornfield's edge, standing stark against the dimming sky. My mind quickly rationalizes it as a scarecrow, one of those lonesome sentinels placed by farmers to ward off pesky birds. Yet as my car draws nearer, my heart pounds a little harder. The figure is too real, too human. As I get closer, a chilling realization dawns on me. It's not a scarecrow, it's a man. My car slows down, the man coming into clearer view, his state unsettling. I'm confronted by a figure that seems out of place, out of time. His clothes are ragged, torn in places as if he's been wandering aimlessly through the cornfield for days, weeks, who knows how long. His eyes, oh his eyes. They're vacant, devoid of the spark that signifies life, humanity. They're like two hollow pits, filled with a darkness that seems to consume everything around them. It's unsettling, to say the least. I've seen lost souls before, but this is different. There's an eerie emptiness to him, a void that sends chills down my spine. I gather my wits, trying to maintain a level of composure. "Hey, are you okay?" I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. He doesn't respond, his gaze remains fixed on me, unblinking, unnerving. "Do you need help?" I try again, but my words seem to evaporate into the cool evening air, leaving no impact on him. Then, without warning, he lunges at my car, a sudden terrifying movement that sends my heart into overdrive. His hands reach out, fingers clawing at the air, trying to grasp something, anything. It's as if he's trying to pull me out of the car, into the darkness, into the unknown. I react instinctively, my foot slamming on the gas pedal. The car leaps forward, swerving around him. I can feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, my heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. I glance in the rearview mirror, expecting to see him chasing after me, but he's gone. Heart pounding like a drum in my chest, I slam on the gas, swerving around him. The road stretches out before me, a path leading me away from the man in the cornfield, from the shadows, from the fear. But even as I speed away, I can't help but feel a sense of unease, a sense that I'm not alone, that I'm being watched, and that feeling, it doesn't go away. The car roars to life, leaving the stranger behind in a cloud of dust. The adrenaline surges through my veins, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. Fear and relief intermingle as I glance in the rearview mirror, watching the enigmatic figure disappear into the towering cornfield. It's as if he's swallowed by the shadows, fading into the eerie maze of stalks and leaves. As I speed down the lonely road, the car's headlights slicing through the encroaching darkness, I can't shake off an unsettling feeling. It's a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, an insidious whisper in my mind, a chill that runs up my spine. It's as if I'm being watched, as if invisible eyes are tracking my every move. The cornfield flanks both sides of the road, stretching into the horizon, a sea of shadows and whispers. Each glance in the rearview mirror only shows the empty road behind me, but the feeling remains, a chill running up my spine. Finally home. A supposed sanctuary, but the fear lingers. The familiar comfort of my own four walls does little to quell the unease that has taken root in my mind. I try to dismiss the evening's events as a freak encounter, a chance run-in with a deranged individual, yet the image of the man, his torn clothes, and those vacant eyes continues to replay in my mind like a broken record. With each passing night, I find myself sinking deeper into paranoia. The quiet countryside, once a peaceful retreat, now feels like an eerie stage set for a horror show. The rustle of the cornfield becomes sinister whispers in the wind, each gust telling tales of the horrors that lurk within. The nights are the worst, filled with sounds that have no place in the tranquility of the country. The crunch of footsteps on dried corn husks, a chilling soundtrack to my persistent dread. Each echo in the still night air is a reminder of the man and the encounter that has left an indelible mark on my life. I find myself waking up in cold sweats, heart pounding, as the ghostly echoes of footsteps invade my dreams. Each creak of the old wooden house sends shivers down my spine. Each shadow in the moonlight becomes a lurking figure waiting to pounce. I keep telling myself it's all in my head, that the mind has a way of playing tricks when fear takes over. But the feeling of being watched, of being hunted, refuses to dissipate. Every corner of my own home feels tainted by the unseen presence. Day turns into night and night into day in this relentless cycle of fear. The cornfield that once represented the simple beauty of the countryside now stands as a haunting reminder of the man in the road, of the terror that has seeped into my life. The feeling persists, the feeling that whatever I saw out there, it's waiting for me. The sanctuary of my home, my fortress against the world, now feels like a prison. Each day is a countdown to the next haunting night, to the next encounter with the unseen. Night after night, the unsettling symphony of the cornfield continues. It's a melody of rustling stalks and whispers that seem to echo from the very depths of my nightmares. Each creak of my old house, each gust of wind sends my heart racing, my mind spiraling back to that encounter. My days are filled with dread, a lingering sense of unease that refuses to dissipate. The nights, however, are far worse. They're dominated by a fear so potent it seems to seep from the walls of my home. I'm not just haunted by the memory of the man in the cornfield, but by the chilling realization that I was never truly alone. Something else was there, something from the cornfield. It wasn't just watching, it was waiting, biding its time. The creaks in the house, the whispers in the night, they're not my imagination. They're the echoes of a presence, an unwanted passenger from that fateful drive. And now I realize it's not out there. It's here, with me,